Thank you to the Solidarity for Democratic Iran Committee for inviting me here tonight, and congratulations on a beautiful International Women's Day celebration. My name is Lisa Bastien. I'm the Ontario Director for the Canadian Labour Congress, which represents 3.3 million unionized workers across Canada. The Canadian Labour Congress advocates for the rights of women and girls in Canada and across the world. Right now we have our campaign, Done Waiting. The Done Waiting campaign is for women's economic equality and justice, because we are done waiting for employment equity, equal pay for work of equal value. We are done waiting for harassment-free workplaces and an end to violence against women and girls. And we are done waiting for access to childcare, which would allow women to participate fully in the economic market. We do this advocacy work at the federal level and with the federal government and with our allies at that level, particularly allies in the New Democratic Party. So it gives me great pleasure this evening to introduce our ally and your ally, Cheryl Hardcastle, who is the NDP Member of Parliament for Windsor-Tecumseh. She was elected in 2015. In 2016, Cheryl was appointed to the Subcommittee for International Human Rights, where she sits as Vice Chair. In the fall of 2017, she was elected Vice Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for the Prevention of Genocide and Other Crimes Against Humanity. She is also the party critic for international human rights, sports, pensions, and people living with disabilities. Please give a warm welcome to Cheryl Hardcastle.
I would like to start by acknowledging that we're on traditional territory. We're on the land that is a meeting place of two treaties, the Mississaugas of the New Credit and of the Williams Treaty. The Wendat, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee lived here before us. And they keep living here now, have given here and keep giving here as we live and give here. When I say this out loud, it provokes me. At the heart of this acknowledgement are essential human questions of ethics and the ephemerality of all history and what it means to live on Earth, the great mother turtle who lets us live on her back. It reveals to me the burden of my own ignorance. Who are we, all of us? And what can I do to close this gap between intention and action in my country and the world we humans inhabit? It brings me here now with gratitude and appreciation. Being among you is inspirational, because I know you too experience these same essential questions, and you know not to cower from the ugliness. Love and courage. Love and courage. During last year's International Women's Day in Iran, a large group of women and men supporters planned to rally outside of the Labour Ministry in Tehran. Upon arrival, protesters were met with a heavy crackdown by police, and Iranians on social media reported large numbers of security officers in vans and on motorcycles in central areas of the city. Women were arrested, many of them had their cell phones confiscated, others were cited by authorities for violating the so-called Islamic dress code. Each day, Iranian women face volatile discrimination in highly personal matters related to marriage, divorce, inheritance, child custody. A married woman may not obtain a passport or travel outside the country without the written permission of her husband. And I think for us in Canada to relate, just the ban on women in sports stadiums is emblematic of the repression of women in the country. Women have been sent to jail for publicly speaking out in favor of such equal rights for women, let alone the more profound ones. Yet, in spite of these repressive circumstances, women in Iran continue to push for their basic rights. In my role as Vice Chair of the Subcommittee on International Human Rights, the one thing that constantly grasps my attention is the incredible bravery of women human rights defenders, not just in Iran, but the world over. For love of their families and communities, they put aside their fears to stand up and make a better life for all. It takes the courageousness of women human rights defenders. When women human rights defenders work in conflict under fundamentalism in environments where natural resources and labor are controlled and appropriated by corporate power, under patriarchy, during crisis of democracy, they face increased threats and attacks. Not only do they face the same threats as other human rights defenders, like surveillance, false charges and false trials, torture and other violence and assassination, women human rights defenders also face threats due to their gender. These include sexual abuse and harassment, domestic violence, threats against their children, and smear campaigns. In addition, women human rights defenders face extreme hostility and intensified threats when their efforts challenge male dominance in society. This is especially true when women human rights defenders are seen as challenging cultural or religious stereotypes that perpetuate the inferiority of women and as tokens of their families' and communities' honor. Amazing women, such as human rights lawyer Nasrin Sotoudeh, Narja Mohammadi, imprisoned in the notorious Evin prison for fighting for an end to the death penalty, Gulrak Arihi, who dared to condemn the stoning of women, and Atina Diami regularly took part in gatherings outside the prisons to show solidarity with families of death row prisoners and distribute anti-death penalty pamphlets. She was arrested by Iranian Revolutionary Guards in 2014 and transferred to Evin prison and held in solitary confinement in an insect-infested cell which had no toilet. She was blindfolded and interrogated, often for more than 10 hours at a time, over a period of months, 2 months. She turns 31 on March the 27th. I will defend the rights of my sisters until my last breath, she told Amnesty International. I will not allow security bodies, which already violate Iran's own laws, to treat our families as a means to inflict mental torture on us. I would rather die and be a slave to that oppression. Women human rights defenders risk everything. As our Subcommittee on International Human Rights has studied Iran through the years, I'm always struck by the disjunction between, on the one hand, the impeccable Iranian people I've been so fortunate to meet, and then on the other hand, the people who rule the country. And an esteemed people in history we're celebrating here tonight. We've heard a little bit from speakers earlier tonight. An esteemed history in the world, a rich civilization with a long and storied heritage dating back thousands of years. A large, well-educated, youthful, prosperous, enterprising, creative, innovative, diverse population know this and embrace this and nurture this. For while the situation is dire right now, we continue to come together and we continue to gather hope and strength Time is on the side of the just. To the women of Iran, I will close by saying to you, you are not alone. The eyes of the world are watching you, admiring you, willing your amazing courage and achievements to carry on. And to the men who support you and push forward with you, we embrace you. All of us are hanging on with you to a hope and optimism that will fortify all humankind in the despair. Love and courage, sisters, love and courage. We stand with you tonight and always until the human rights of all women are respected and indeed the law of the land. Love and courage. Thank you.